Hi, Mike. How are you?
Hey, Srinivasan. I'm doing good.
So, one question I had for you. So, I was able to run what you had given. I think I shared, right, that I was able to train the model. It did train successfully.
Mm-hmm.
And then now I have, however, run into a problem when I try
Mm-hmm.
to upload the model on um, Kaggle and try to run it.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to kind of see whether you have any thoughts on that. So let me share my screen. And this is just the LLM approach, right? That, I just want to fine tune the LLM. And so you can see my screen now, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So in this case, um, show you what the guy has as inputs, right? So he has, this is the data, this is the test package, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And this is, I believe, the, these are the files for the adapter that he has trained, right? That's the LoRa weights that he has trained. Right? Can you see it? You're on mute.
Oh, yes, I can.
Okay. So, and then this is where he has the actual Mistral 7D model. Okay. Now, the issue is, one of the issues, I think, is, so let me show you. So I tried to duplicate this, right? And I created two data sets from my, so here's the Mistral 7D Instruct V03 data set, right?
Mm-hmm.
I downloaded the information from Hugging Face and uploaded it to a data set. And then here is my adapter information. I also called it Mr. V0, okay? Now,
Mm-hmm.
so then I just copied his notebook, and if you see, replaced the two data sets that he had with my corresponding data sets. Okay.
Okay.
Now, one problem that I see right away, right, and I don't know, but my notebook gives all kinds of errors. So one problem that I see right away, now there is a minor problem which you may or may not know the answer to. So, but ignore that for a minute. We'll deal with it later. But the major problem is that he has, like I just showed you, he has Mistral 7D Instruct V02, but an FP16 version of it. I don't know where he got this from and how he created an FP16 version. Okay. Whereas obviously I downloaded Mistral 7D Instruct V03, but I don't have an FP16, and I searched around and Hugging Face doesn't have an FP16 version of the model. So do you know where or how you could generate a Mistral 7D Instruct V03 FP16?
I think so. It is in BF16, the Hugging Face model.
No, it's just 7D Instruct V03, and I think it's just in the standard model is probably just 32-bit, right? Whereas
No, no, no.
the,
I think so. They had given. If you open up the Hugging Face Mistral 7B Instruct V3 uh, page, I think so. They have given it. Yeah, if you go to the model card on the left, Yeah, the tensor type they say as BF16 on the right.
Okay. Now, how do you change this then to FP16? Because BF16 will not work, right?
Oh, this is emulated in the latest in the latest versions of CUDA. I interfaced with the PyTorch developers. There was one guy named Thomas, and he said that in the latest versions of CUDA, what they have done is they have emulated BF16 to FP32. So what happens is when you say load it in BF16, it loads it in FP32, and
Okay, so that's my point, that this is now in FP32, correct?
yes,
Effectively, even if the
yeah,
tensor type is BF16, it's effectively in FP32, correct?
yes,
So my question remains, right, is as you just saw, he has, or he calls, I don't know whether he actually has or he just labels this FP16. But here is the problem practically, right? Like when I load the model, right, obviously, the first thing I tried was commenting out this guy because I don't
okay,
have the model in float 16, right? Like we just discussed, it's FP32, correct? So if I try to run this with this, I can do it even right now. But if I first tried to load it with this commented out,
yeah,
right? Because it will then load it in FP32, but then, it says you're highly likely to run out of memory. And I can understand that because it is loading in FP32, right? Rather than, but also, if in the notebook we see, the notebook we use, I used to train it or fine tune it, we are actually, I think, loading it in 4-bit. Is this correct?
yes,
Even though we also say that the computing D type is float 16.
yeah. Whenever a compute matrix multiplication or some other computation is performed on the weights or the KQV vectors, so
Right.
it's
It will
yeah,
be done in the 16, but the model itself is stored in 4-bit, right? At least
yeah,
when we are tuning it. But the results, I think, are stored back in the adapters as FP16, I assume,
yes.
right? Because we say somewhere, I don't know whether we say or not. That's another good question. Do we say anywhere that we want to store the adapters in FP16?
I think so. There was in the trainer config function, yeah, the training arguments. There's
Here
a
we say
yeah,
FP16 is true, right?
yeah,
So that
yeah,
means we would be training and storing the adapter in FP16, right?
yes.
Now, the question I have is, how do we get do we need to get the model in FP16? Because obviously when I do this, what it says, see, it gives me this really weird error of expected digit, not none type. I don't know like what, and now I can try running it, with this commented out. Right, we can just do that. Right.
By default, you can you will have to see what's the function there. I mean, what's the default data type
Well,
that they
if I
use?
don't specify anything, I assume it will get the default, right?
So
If I don't
what's the
specify,
default? That's the point, right?
sorry.
What's the default data type?
I'm just saying, yeah, well, I mean, that's a question, but even more so here, like so I'm commenting this out, okay? So that I'm assuming it will just bring it in because I don't give it a particular choice. It will just bring it in whatever format it has. Because I think even during training, for example, when we load the model, I am curious whether we give a particular, these are in LoRa config, the base model. Yeah, so see, we don't specify, we only specify the quantization config, right, from here. But if this wasn't there, we would just say model ID and device map. So like that, here, I'm just, if I comment out, I assume it will load in whatever is the default data size, data type, correct?
Uh, but this is a function, right? From pre-trained. So it must have some sort of a default value, or is it?
Correct. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It will load with the defaults, right? So it does load, but then it gives me an error, which we'll see in a minute. It takes a while to load, right? Because it has these, it's a large file. It's multiple gigs, right? Because the model is like, so you can see it's like several gig. It's, I think, like 15 gig or whatever. While it's doing that, I have another kind of the trivial question. See, for some reason, when I created the data set and I gave it a title, it created a data set. So, because it is so big, I created a folder and then shoved all the files into that folder. Now, when I create a data set from it, it shoves that underneath another layer. So I don't know what's the simple way to get rid of. I mean, it's not a big deal because I can just provide the path this way, but it's just an annoying thing. I don't know whether off the top of your head, why this is happening. Like, to get rid of this additional level of path in the way I'm creating a data set. So for example, in this case, I created the data set, I gave it this name, and this is a folder. So somehow it creates the thing underneath the folder, right?
In
But
the
anyway,
torch underscore D type, I think so. You need to pass auto.
dot d type equals auto.
Yeah.
See, because here it says you set add prefix space, the tokenizer needs to be converted from the slow tokenizers, blah, blah, blah. And then it just gives me this error. When I do it here. So you're saying I should try this?
Yeah. And in the brackets, pass on auto.
Like that?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll try that. It's still giving me the same error. For example, let's stop the session. that. So I couldn't get the thing working, even though I have the same exact files. So I checked, what files he has, and I have the 10 files that he has as well. So let's try that again. Yeah, so I couldn't get this to work. First, it was kind of annoying.
Is it giving the same error? I think so. Then there might be some issues with the bin file here. I think so. He has provided a bin file, right? So he must have converted this into some way, because
Well, I mean, see here, here
does
are all
he
the
okay
files.
these
Now,
these
the
are the
thing is,
saved tensor files, right? So you
correct, but
showed a
then
bin.
in his correct, but then I asked Gemini the question, right?
Uh-huh.
Here, look at what is the difference between safe tensors and adapter.bin. You see that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what it says is that safe tensors is the preferred and recommended way to store PEFT adapter weights. The bin format was used earlier, but it's no longer the case.
Yeah.
So it's better to have adapted as safe tensors.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So yes, I noticed that he has, you know, but here actually he just has safe tensors also, by the way, which is
Mm-hmm.
the place where we are actually looking at. But
Okay.
again, the question remains that he seems to have an FP16 version. And my question is, is that the reason for this? Because, I mean, it's still loading. Let's see what happens in this case, whether it still gives the problem or not. But obviously, I am just loading the standard V03, which, as you pointed out, is in BF16. But I guess when it is loaded without giving a data type, then it automatically um, converts to float 32, which I would imagine is a default that all um, CUDA devices support. It's only some which do BF16, but all of them do, I think, FP16 and FP32. But the question I also had is how the hell, see, again, it's giving an error, and it's probably the same error. See,
Mm-hmm. You can do one thing. You can load it from the models file. The models option that uh, Kaggle has.
what do you mean? Because I don't think that there is a Mistral 7B instruct model on
Oh,
Kaggle.
there
That's
is.
why,
There is.
where,
Uh,
or how. But also, the thing is, again, the question remains, right? It may be because of this float 16 issue. And how do I get a float 16 version of the model?
mm-hmm. I think so.
Uh,
There is a problem with the model here. Uh, this is the V3 model. On
Right.
the Kaggle models page, there is a Mistral 7B instruct V1 and
Where are
7B.
you looking? Can you tell me
Yeah,
where to go for that?
let me point you to the pasted in the chat. I pasted the link in the chat.
Yeah, but they have version 0.1. In fact, even Chris is using 0.2, and I saw that you had used 0.3 in the
Yeah.
notebook.
Mm-hmm.
So they are still behind, right? Unless I go back and change, see here, you had used version 0.3.
Yeah, that is from
Hugging Face.
yeah. I
Right.
think so you
So
can refer to Mistral 7B 0.2 instruct 2. It's there. Let me try
yeah,
to
I know. No, I know there is an instruct version 0.2, which is what what's his name? Chris is using. So I can switch to that and train it and then maybe use Chris's FP16 model and use the adapter. You think maybe that will work?
Yeah, I think so. We'll have to.
But yeah, but the question I guess I was having is, how would you create a 16-bit version of this model? If he, like Chris supposedly has done. I don't know whether he has done it. I can ask him that in the questions. He usually is pretty responsive. I'll ask him that. But I don't know how he created that. Do you know how to create a version 16-bit FP16 version of this?
I think so. When you load it up, the D type that you refer to as torch underscore D type, the D type that you give there. So that's the, I think
No, but
so.
if you, are you saying that if I just give this as the torch dot float 16, that it will load it as float 16? But that also you saw gave problems, right? In one case, you get this problem. If I change it and let's say I, instead of auto, suppose I do this, if that's what you're saying will be the simple way to create. This will take a while, but are you just saying that you just need to create
Yeah.
it by specifying that's all you have to do?
There must be I'm searching on the Stack Overflow if they have faced some problems related to this, but there is some issues with the uh, uh, trying to load it in FP16 via Accelerate. So what folks have done is they have created a wrapper on a script and a function, and they have used that. But I think so in this case, it should work. I think so there must be some issues with the model that you're trying to load. And if you use Chris's version or you download the Hugging Face model, the version 3, and upload it via the dataset that you
Well,
created.
that's exactly
Yeah.
what I've done here, Mayank. That is what I've
Okay.
done here.
But this
model is
also is
exactly downloaded and uploaded from Hugging Face.
okay, but this also is not working in your case.
Yeah, I mean, let it finish downloading the data set, because as you can see, it's about 14 gigs. So it takes a while sometimes to load it. But yeah, even this doesn't work. I mean, I obviously tried this simple thing of just keeping the .d type as float 16, but it again gives me some error. We'll see what the error is when I do that. I mean, the only thing I can think of is to go back and train it using version 0.2, and then now my adapters are in FP16, and then I use the Chris Diot's model, base model, and then combine my adapters. But okay, that works because Chris somehow has created an FP16. The question for version 0.2, and the question I really have is how to create an FP16 version for any version. Because if, and maybe I'll just ask Chris in that, like, hey, how did you create an FP16 version of, is it just a simple case of specifying the D type, or do you have to do something to get it to 16-bit?
I think so. If you search from converting models from BF16 to, and they will list down a number of ways. I remember I used Tensor RT once, the LLM Tensor RT, the LLM, NVIDIA's repo to convert FP16 to FP8 or int8.
So you had to do something, right? It wasn't just a matter of specifying the D type, correct?
At that point, I was trying to quantize it. So it was like this kind of a setup that
Okay, so now I'm running it with just specifying touch D type float 16. Let's see what it does.
yeah.
I think it gives an error even in this case.
Here it says that from BF16 to float 16, you just have to pass in torch D type. It converts it. That's what I alluded to earlier. I don't know if we want to convert this model manually. We can do that too. There must be some libraries related to that.
No, if it's saying that it just specifying dot D type ought to do that, then that's exactly what I'm doing here, right?
Yeah.
But it doesn't seem to work because it gives me an error.
We can search for that error on, maybe others have faced it, and there must be a mention of them on the issues or somewhere on the Stack Overflow. So
Yeah, see, again gives the same stupid error.
yeah, we can search this on the web. Or you can try asking Gemini. It can give you an answer, Gemini or Chat GPT, the free one. Okay, so you need to convert this to fast tokenizer.
I know, but I don't do input IDs or any of this stuff, right? I mean, it is just literally the default. And it's kind of an auto tokenizer from pre-train that I'm using. I mean, I haven't touched anything. Is it just that version 03 instruct has this problem? Because I'm not even setting add prefix space or any of that kind of nonsense. Right? You see what I'm saying? I'm not doing, I'm just loading the model, have the exact same model, and saying this, and then
I haven't faced this kind of a issue before, so I cannot comment on that, but I think so. If you follow the instructions here, that should give you
maybe make this so, when it says model is this, auto model for seek to seek ln from pre-train. That's not what I want to do though, right?
you can try pasting this on Google, this error.
Yeah. Okay. I'll see what is going on. Yeah, here.
Yeah, here. Yeah, you need to set
Because this is
add
exactly
prefix space.
this is exactly what's happening, right?
Yep.
Opened about a month back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have updated the tokenizer, I suppose. So
Yeah, see, nobody has responded. See, and then somebody says, yep, but at the same time, who the heck is this guy? Mamba or something. It is at the same time for a fast, this should not be necessary. We will update it this. We'll update this or updated this or what? That he said that 25 days ago and there's nothing. So it seems like there is a problem with this VO3. Okay. That's probably why. So I stumbled into a real problem then. Okay. Good to know. So it is a real
and one thing more. So there's a recommendation that we do not use instruct to fine tune. So you can use the base model to fine tune, since it has the.
But the reason I stuck to instruct is because Chris used it, and that's, I think, the chat model. The instruct model is the chat model. The base model is not a chat model. I don't know whether that matters, but because Chris used it, I didn't want to use, and you had also used instruct in your notebook, probably in,
Yeah, because
I had used V2, you switched it to V3, but still instruct. But I think that was because originally Chris used instruct.
Yeah, I was trying to find the base version for the 02, the 0.2, but I didn't I didn't get it on the Hugging Face hub. So there was some.
So it looks like what I'll have to do is delete these data sets, switch it to 0.2, train it, and then use that with probably an FP16, and I'll simultaneously ask our man. But from what it seems like, the FP16 is just basically, like you said, just load because the problem, as you saw, is not in the loading, because it loaded the model okay. It was in the auto tokenizer
there's
that it was giving
problem with the loading, right? When you try to
not really,
tokenize
right? Because it loaded the model successfully, and the error is in this line. See, the error is
What's
in this
the model
line,
name
not
here? What's the model underscore name here?
here. That's this. That's this guy, which is in this guy, which is
yeah,
inside here. Yeah. So that's the name. So it loaded okay. It's the tokenizer that gives the problem. So I think, and I can confirm this by asking Chris, it just seems that he just labeled it VO3 FP16 because he is doing the type float 16. It's
but
not
in
necessary
Google
to do
Colab,
anything.
yeah, but in Google Colab, the quantized version works with the 0.3, right? If you go back to that Colab that I shared.
But I'm not, yeah, actually, the interesting thing that you point out, which is correct, right, is after training, I do an inference, right? You see here, I infer, right? Now, that inference, and I generate the confusion. So all that works.
It's just that it doesn't work on Kaggle. Maybe there might be some version mismatch with Hugging Face or some, I don't know, some libraries or stuff.
And actually, what I was impressed by, I mean, although the QWK score is not that great, but you can see that it does a pretty good job of the confusion matrix, right? You can see that, the off diagonal numbers are not that high. Right? So, of course, my QWK is only 0.77, and, the best scores are, original Chris Dior score is 0.80.
Yeah,
So
I kind of expected this because since it's a quantized model, so.
Right. But what would I do if I did not want, Chris doesn't quantize, correct?
Yes.
So what would I do if I did not want to quantize? So in this case, the bits and bytes configs, instead of loading 4-bit, do I just check bits and bytes library and the bits and bytes config and see whether there is a load in 16-bit?
So why do you
Because
need
here he is
bits
doing,
and bytes config
he's
here
quantizing it. Sorry.
So why do you need a bits and bytes config here? So you can use the direct from pre-trained.
But will it, and just specify it as, like I did in the other case, the base model is that, but without this and with load with float 16?
Yeah. As we have done in the other, as we have just seen in the other notebook. We need to follow the same.
So I can try that.
Yeah.
I can try that. Yeah. that's something I can try, in which case it will just work in float 16, right? And see, the other thing which I was noticing is maybe because you were trying it on the free or whatever, you were doing it on a T4, I can do it on an L4 or even a A100. So, you know, I could and turn on high RAM. So I could do with a, you know, get rid of the BNB config and just say loading with float 16, and then that would create the relevant adapters, and I can take it over and again do the same as and you know, if I wanted to be safe, I can always also change this V03 to V02. That way I can use his V02 ST16 model, Chris Diot's model. Because the base model is there, but I would have trained the adapters for a longer time than what he did.
Yeah, I think so. You will figure it out. You just need to give it more time.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, probably give it more time. And now that I am not quantizing to 4-bit, maybe my score will go up since I'm training for more time.
Yeah.
Because it was 4-bit, it probably is not giving as good as what Chris had. Okay. And this is a legitimate, real problem. Okay, that's good to know, because I was like, what the heck? Why is it giving me this? I haven't done anything. So it looks like it is a real problem that people are facing and nobody has fixed it yet.
Yep.
Okay. Well, sometimes when you use, that's the thing with anything, right? Like if you use what is very new, you run into problems that nobody has seen before.
So
okay,
let me try to share.
know.
Yeah, let me try to share my screen. This is the new notebook that came out in the last week, I suppose. This is AES tuning and ensemble.
And the score has been better or same or?
Yeah, it's by 1 point, it's better.
Oh, so it's now at 0.824?
Yeah, 0.824. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So I think so. What's the difference here is, like, they have tuned the ensembles. So if I try to, I think so. We looked at this section last time.
Yeah, the last time what we looked at was he was just doing the thresholding, right? In this case, how is he tuning the ensemble?
Yeah, we saw this quadratic weighted kappa, QWK objective, predictor, LGBM fit, XGB regressor, kappa scores, this confusion matrix, the find thresholds function.
Thresholds, right. But how is he? Oh, is he finding? Oh, he's using Optuna to find the parameters that are best.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. In fact, I was wondering about this. Good to know this, because I wanted to use Optuna in something else I was doing. So I think it's good to know how to use Optuna, because I wanted to use Optuna too. Okay.
Yeah. I think so. What he has done here is,
yeah, once he gets the tuned
model,
the tuned values for XGB, he puts those in, gets it, and then kind of generates it, which helps him get even better score. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
The predictions, as we have discussed it in the last meet, the predictions have been thresholded from 1 to 6. The inference part. So
yeah, I think this thresholding idea is something else I should copy into the stuff too, because the opt-in idea is well known, but the thresholding is something that I think sometimes we think we don't, when we are too close to the problem, we forget. So it's worthwhile to notice that when you are applying regression to a classification problem, it helps to empirically determine the thresholds rather than predetermine the thresholds. Right? Because what you would typically do is pick thresholds as the midpoint, but the midpoint may not be the best. So it's good to determine the thresholds and let the data tell you what is the best threshold to pick.
Yeah, kind of like the Cohen-Kappa scores, if I'm not mistaken.
Right. Use the metric that you're trying to determine to then.
I don't know if they have done exactly the way that you are alluding to here, but
yeah, it is exactly the way I'm talking about, because basically the thresholding thing they've done is, vary the score by vary the points at which you decide whether it's put into a regression bucket of 1 or a regression bucket of 2, and determine the thresholding point between 1 and 2 and 2 and 3 and 3 and 4 and so on, and to determine what the correct threshold for each of those should be. Yeah, and it's a good piece of code. I mean, it's a simple once you understand what the guy is trying to do. So, but it's also fascinating that the top of the guys have gone up to 3-1 now. Our guy Steve should be up there too, right? Like, isn't he in the top 20 or something?
Oh, I haven't.
Where is? Can you check for Steve? He is pretty up there, I thought.
Oh, where is he? I think so. He hasn't joined.
He's at 1823 yet. Okay, he hasn't gone up. So I must be at like 400 or something. Check me, SRI.
Yeah, 241.
240. Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Okay.
Where is Steve?
Thanks.
I think so. He hasn't joined for the last two.
Yeah, I told you, right? He has his father-in-law was sick. B, he had a couple of commitments, and then C, this week he's in Spain or traveling somewhere. So I think he said next week he'll join. At least when he left, he said, "Hey, next 3 weeks I'm out, but just before the competition ends, I'll be back."
Oh,
so he will. That's probably why he hasn't submitted, because he's on the road this week. He's traveling and out this week, and I think by next week he should be back.
Yeah, cool.
So he'll be joining.
Yeah, even I was busy with trying to figure out the dumps and stuff. So I'm completely involved in trying to figure out what's the IP that is uploading that particular my screenshot or that keylogger. How is it being used?
So in that, like I mean, is something infected in your computer, meaning that people have downloaded some virus or something where they are tracking your or keystroke monitoring or some kind of software package that's installed, or are they just monitoring your network through something installed on your computer?
I think so. They kind of like since my workstation is on most of the time, like uh if the power goes off, then I have to turn it off. But
Right.
for the 95% of the time it's on, and
Yeah.
some sort of work is being done, like some sort of a process is being running in the background. So I
Mm-hmm.
think so they have used that to their advantage and have installed some packages there, so that can return keystrokes to a URL or the
Is there any
uh,
kind of so are you using any kind of protection when you're on the, do you use any kind of network protection or web protection thing on top of your Linux Ubuntu install?
yeah, I had the firewall configured, but yeah, I think so. They have bypassed it with with combining it with the proxies, like the Google's or the Slack or the Discord. So they combined their IP, like, so it's like they
Mm.
are spoofing it, and uh uh so they just changed the port, but I had disabled it since I wanted to run multiple things on my machine.
Mm.
So I think so. It's like free access right now for everyone to come in. So if I try to
Yeah,
block
but
it right now, yeah.
is there any kind of a software that you can kind of eliminate these things completely, kind of reset your network parameters to kind of like a factory setting type of thing and restart?
I will have to completely wipe out the OS and
No, but
reinstall it.
short of that, like is there anything that you can do just for the network thing rather than wiping the OS?
Now, I think so. I will have to reconfigure the firewall and manually give access to each and every application, yeah, and each and every port that I want to open
Mm.
up. So for like applications like Slack, Zoom, Discord, VS Code, uh, the Docker,
Mm.
and the Chrome and stuff. So I will have to
Right.
give access to those ports and those IPs manually.
Mm. That's a pain.
So yeah, that's a pain since I have multiple things in installer plus I have contacted the authorities here. So
Yeah, but
let's
what are
see.
they going to do? They probably will not do much, right? I don't know that they will do anything uh, very proactive in, because I'm sure they have bigger fish to fry or whatever, right?
But they can recommend steps on the Linux
That's
environment
yeah, but
such that
actually that's the other thing I was going to ask. Isn't there anybody local or on the web, or are there forums that you can go to, like Reddit forums or something, where you can see whether there are any people are recommending any kind of steps and or any kind of software to help you? Have you checked any Reddit forums on this?
I there was I haven't gone through the Reddit forums yet, but I have gone through the Slack, sorry, the Stack Overflow. There's a Ask Ubuntu forum there where I posted
Hmm.
my
Hmm.
complaints, but nobody, I think so, is interested in this sort of uh, hacks or this cybercrime that's happening all over the world right now. So they haven't responded. So they
Hmm.
I need to figure out some forums and completely dedicate myself to that because I've been busy with the other stuff. Open source and those research work that I try to do on the sidelines. So whenever I get time, I've been trying to record these conversations and stuff. So right now too, in this meeting too, uh, there were few instances of some words being spoken that I could hear. So I will have to listen to what I have recorded and yeah, figure it out and report it to the cybercrime unit.
Yeah, actually, I mean, I would, couple of times I've had better experience with Reddit on a couple of topics, if you can find the right Reddit forum.
Mm-hmm.
Because people there are pretty active if you can find the right forum.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Yeah. Thanks. We'll try to figure this
Okie
out
dokie.
soon. Okay.
Yeah. See you next week, and hopefully Steve will be with us at that time too.
Yep. Thanks and take
Okay.
care.
You too. Bye.